While there has been a hospital explosion in Gaza City, the repercussions are being faced by Israel, by a number of human rights groups, certain countries, international organizations at this point of time pointing guns at Israel for its alleged involvement in killing those 500 innocent people. There has also been a big development that has taken place where President Biden has now arrived in Tel Aviv today. He has met Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he has, in fact, in two media briefings, one before the meeting took place between the two leaders of the states, the other one that has taken place after. And he has continued to reiterate. He said that in unequivocal terms, United States of America is going to stand behind Israel and Netanyahu militarily, humanitarian and otherwise as well in fighting the war of defense that Israel fights today against Hamas. Well, this has been a long-standing stance that has been taken by United States of America ever since there was the creation of Israel back 75 years ago. I'm going to start off my conversation. I have with me Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor. And Ambassador, we spoke about the minutiae, the nitty-gritties of the war that is taking place currently in Israel. In the next half an hour, what I would like to discuss with you is the larger geopolitical impact of it. And does United States have the heft now to take control of this exceedingly volatile situation that has happened along the Gaza border?
Thank you, Megha, for leading this discussion. This is a very important juncture of history. A hospital has been bombed in the Gaza Strip. Hundreds of civilians have died who are getting treatment in the hospital. It's a very unfortunate episode. And all of us, our hearts go out to all the people who have died and who are wounded. Now, when I sit back and reflect and think about this particular episode to begin with, before we get on to the other issues, if the blame is being laid on Israel for the bombing, it is absolutely, a very, very dastardly act which needs to be condemned in the strongest possible terms. And if the blame is on Hamas, a rocket being misfired, where there is also a lot of discussion going on about that, a lot of evidence, then the Hamas needs to be brought to justice. Now, for me, if I think about it dispassionately, what would Israel gain from such an act? It would unify the Muslim world. It would bring out the European countries in condemnation. It would bring out the Western world in condemnation. Now, what has my track record been if I am Israel? Have I done such an act where I've killed hundreds of innocent civilians in the past for no rhyme or reason? I don't think so. The war has been going on for a long time. There have been displacements, there have been settlements, there have been so many other issues. There were possibilities of a two-state formula being implemented, which had been proposed by the UN, which had been proposed by the Western countries. The people who rejected it, the two-state formula, were not the Israelis. Israelis were quite happy to move ahead. Initially, the proposal was for a big area of land to be given to Palestine. Then that offer kept on getting changed to smaller pieces of land being given to Palestine over the decades. But it was Palestine which said that there is no possibility of a two-state formula. Israel cannot exist. So that is even in the charter for the Hamas, that they have to destroy Israel and wipe it out from its very roots so that it does not exist as a country in the world. Mm-hmm. So if there is so much of, glaring contrast, now for Israel to go around and bomb an hospital where civilian casualties would be very high. Of course, they have the bombs, they have the capacities. But do they have any motive? Do they have any purpose? If the outcomes are going to be totally stacked against Israel, and the Muslim world is already condemning it. Now, for countries now to be in a situation where even if they know the truth is something else, but to declare their own positions on the side of even lies has become very easy. So if Iran and Turkey and all are continuously blaming Israel for this hospital attack, whereas other countries are saying that an independent judgment has to be made about whose rocket was fired on the hospital, what happened and how it got fired, and the outcomes is there for all the world to see.
Okay.
So I think the world needs to be a little more careful about being judgmental on this issue.
Okay, all right.
And then taking the next steps to punish the guilty in the strongest manner possible.
Okay, okay. Jordan Cope also on the telecast with me. Now, Jordan, the situation of countering terrorism is not just limited to Israel. It has happened across the globe, and every single country has faced it. Whether it is India, United States of America, France, UK, Canada, Australia, Middle Eastern countries. So, this is a fight that is not being fought alone by Israel or United States of America. This is a fight that the world needs to come together and fight. It has been fighting individually. So, do you find a solution? Sitting on the negotiating table to find a resolution to it. How can Arab countries and Arab states be brought together? Is there hope that we can see in once again going about forging ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel? Has that deal completely taken off the table after the Hamas attack and the retaliation that Israel has put forth?
I think it's a good question. And as always, thanks for having me on the panel. I think the Saudi Arabia-Israel normalization deal, or at least peace prospects, could emerge at some time in the future. I think the Middle East will have to settle down, and perhaps there will have to be more trust between the administrations in Saudi Arabia and the US before such a normalization deal is achieved. There's been much distrust between both of the administrations currently, between both countries until recently where they warmed. And so I do think it's potentially on the table for the long-term future. I would say in regards to getting Arab states to ultimately counter terrorism and to take it more seriously, first and foremost, they will have to start and label Hamas a terrorist organization.
I'll have to interrupt you. You know, this is President Biden again addressing the media. This is the third time in the day since his arrival to Tel Aviv that he's addressing the media. Let's listen into what he said.
Baby. For those who have lost loved ones, this is what I know. They'll never be truly gone. There's something that's never fully lost. Your love for them and their love for you. And I promise you, you'll be walking along some days and say, what would she or he want me to do? You smile when you pass a place that reminds you of them. That's when you know. When a smile comes to your lips before a tear to your eye, that's when you know you're going to fully make it. That's what will give you the fortitude to find light in the darkest hours. When terrorists believe they could bring you down, bend your will, break your resolve. But they never did and they never will. Instead, we saw incredible stories of heroism and courage, of Israelis taking care of one another, neighbors forming watch groups to protect their kibbutz, opening their homes to shelter survivors, retired soldiers running into danger once again, civilian medics flying across rescue missions, and off-duty medics at the music festival caring for the wounded before becoming a victim himself. Volunteers retrieving bodies of the dead so families could bury their loved ones in accordance with Jewish tradition. Reservists leaving behind their families, their honeymoons, their studies abroad without hesitation, and so much more. The State of Israel was born to be a safe place for the Jewish people of the world. That's why it was born. I've long said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to invent it. And while it may not feel that way today, Israel must again be a safe place for the Jewish people. And I promise you, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it will be. 75 years ago, just 11 minutes after its founding, President Harry S. Truman and the United States of America became the first nation to recognize Israel. We've stood by your side ever since. We're going to stand by your side now. My administration has been in close touch with your leadership from the first moments of this attack. We're going to make sure you have what you need to protect your people, to defend your nation. For decades, we've ensured Israel's qualitative military edge. And later this week, I'm going to ask the United States Congress for an unprecedented support package for Israel's defense. We're going to keep Iron Dome fully supplied so it can continue standing sentinel over Israeli skies, saving Israeli lives. We've moved U.S. military assets to the region, including positioning the USS Ford Carrier Strike Group in the Eastern Mediterranean, with the USS Eisenhower on the way to defer further aggression against Israel and to prevent this conflict from spreading. The world will know that Israel is stronger than ever. And my message to any state or any other hostile actor thinking about attacking Israel remains the same as it was a week ago. Don't. Since this terrorist attack took place, we've seen it described as Israel's 9/11. Though for a nation the size of Israel, it was like 15 9/11s. The scale may be different, but I'm sure those horrors have tapped into some kind of primal feeling in Israel, just like it did and felt in the United States. Shock, pain, rage, an all-consuming rage. I understand, and many Americans understand. You can't look at what has happened here to your mothers, your fathers, your grandparents, sons, daughters, children, even babies, and not scream out for justice. Justice must be done. But I caution this: while you feel that rage, don't be consumed by it. After 9/11, we were enraged in the United States. While we sought justice and got justice, we also made mistakes. I'm the first U.S. president to visit Israel in time of war. I've made wartime decisions. I know the choices are never clear or easy for the leadership. There's always cost, but it requires being deliberate. It requires asking very hard questions. It requires clarity about the objectives and an honest assessment about whether the path you're on will achieve those objectives. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas. Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people. Hamas uses innocent families in Gaza as human shields, putting their command centers, their weapons, their communications tunnels in residential areas. Palestinian people are suffering greatly as well. We mourn the loss of innocent Palestinian lives like the entire world. I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we've seen to date, it appears the result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza. The United States unequivocally stands for the protection of civilian life during conflict, and I truly grieve for the families who were killed or wounded by this tragedy. The people of Gaza need food, water, medicine, shelter. Today I asked the Israeli cabinet, who I met with for some time this morning, to agree to the delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, based on the understanding that there will be inspections and that the aid should go to civilians, not to Hamas. Israel agreed the humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza. But let me be clear: if Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people. And it will end. As a practical matter, it will stop the international community from being able to provide this aid. We're working in close cooperation with the government of Egypt, the United Nations, and its agencies like the World Food Program and other partners in the region to get trucks moving across the border as soon as possible. Separately, I ask Israel that the global community demand that the International Red Cross be able to visit hostages. I just demanded that the United States fully supports. Today, I'm also announcing $100 million in new U.S. funding for humanitarian assistance in both Gaza and the West Bank. This money will support more than 1 million displaced and conflict-affected Palestinians, including emergency needs in Gaza. You are a Jewish state. You are a Jewish state, but you're also a democracy. And like the United States, you don't live by the rules of terrorists. you live by the rule of law. And when conflicts flare, you live by the law of wars. What sets us apart from the terrorists is we believe in the fundamental dignity of every human life. Israeli, Palestinian, Arab, Jew, Muslim, Christian, everyone. You can't give up what makes you who you are. If you give that up, then the terrorists win, and we can never let them win. You know, Israel's a miracle, a triumph of faith and resolve and resilience over impossible pain and loss. Think about October 7th, the Jewish holiday, where you read about the death of Moses, a tragic story of a profound loss to an entire nation, a death that could have left hopelessness in the hearts of the entire nation. But though Moses died, his memory, his message, his lessons have lived on for generations of the Jewish people as well as many others, just as the memory of your loved ones will live on as well.
All right. So there you have it, the third press briefing of the day by President Biden. He has minced no words in saying that there is going to be full military support that the United States of America is going to be providing Israel in fighting its war in defense of the Hamas attack. He's particularly mentioned about the military troops, the Marines that at this point of time have been put on standby. There is the USS Ford that has already been deployed in the East Mediterranean Sea. The USS Eisenhower is on its way to the East Mediterranean Sea. So amidst all of this, in terms of the military support, in terms of providing ammunition and weapons to the Iron Dome to intercept these missiles attacks from the Hamas side into Israel, Jordan, is this a deterrence policy that is being utilized by America? If on one hand it continues to give military aid to Israel, how is it then going to be making a convincing argument to the Arab states for negotiating a peace deal?
It should be noted that our administration has actually struggled in negotiations, in part because there's been so much pressure that has been inflamed by the media throughout the Middle East and North Africa. Major headlines such as the New York Times, AP, BBC have all suggested that the recent hospital strike was actually Israel's responsibility, when now it's come to light via not just the Israeli Defense Forces, but the US and other external evidence as well, that it was likely the Palestinian Islamic Jihad that caused that hospital explosion. And so this has caused enragement throughout much of the Middle East. American embassies, Israeli embassies have had rioters outside. In Lebanon right now, there are supposedly police forces having to guard a McDonald's because of its ties to the United States and its statement of support for Israel. So there's a lot of talk within the recent speech that we just heard, but some of the same problems remain. Qatar continues to fund Gaza massive amounts of money, much of it going to Hamas, approximately $360 million a year, according to some estimates. Qatar's given approximately $1.8 billion to Hamas since 2012. So there's a lot of issues going on, and we're not properly going to address terrorism until we ultimately address the funding. Qatar and Iran, which gives $100 million to Hamas every year, and the media that continues to inflame incitement and misinformation that perpetuates people to go onto the streets and to commit acts of terror. And it's to no coincidence that we've recently seen acts of terror throughout Europe on the basis of misinformation about what's been going on in Israel and Gaza.
Okay. Gautam, this was just too easy for Hamas to then again bring to notice of the world the Middle Eastern crisis. The fact that there has been a terrorist attack that has happened where Israelis have been killed, butchered, mutilated, raped, kidnapped, and there was an obvious reaction that they would have ascertained from Israeli side, and that has happened, and obviously United States of America coming to aid of Israel in no uncertain terms. What has been the bigger ulterior motive behind doing this?
America has a goodwill nature of wanting to help other peoples, but what America hasn't realized is that...
Sorry, Jordan, this question was forgotten. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
The timing of it, Meghas, is obviously pointing towards Hamas and Islamic Jihad, that they have decided to kill 500 of their own people in order to derail any kind of Arab raft, which was being sponsored by Jordan, a four-way meeting, is part of it. The second part of it, and Biden has done this 3 times in a day, is to say, look, nothing has changed. We appreciate that there is a humanitarian crisis, and here is $100 million, and we hope the Red Cross will be let in, and the trucks will roll in to help Palestinians. Don't steal their medicine. Don't steal their food. So, Hamas couldn't care less what happens to Palestine. Neither could Islamic Jihad, neither could Hezbollah and their backers in Qatar, as well as in Iran, and further afield, actually, we have good old China. We also have Russia kind of bound hand and foot in this axis. Israel needs to be supported. This has to end once and for all, and the only way to end it is to destroy Hamas, as Netanyahu has said a number of times, and its allies, the Islamic Jihad and other groups, the Hezbollah, and if it calls for a 3-front war, so be it.
Okay.
I think it may well end up doing that, with Lebanon becoming involved, Syria becoming involved. They're not going to win. Neither is Iran with its threats of involvement. America means business, and so does Israel. And India is in strong support of Israel at this juncture.
Okay. Dr. Ravi Godse, then is this not playing into the hands of this axis of evil that has been created? China at the forefront of it, Iran and Russia at this point of time holding hands with China, and the Iranians supplying all the weaponry and ammunition to Hezbollah, to Hamas, and obviously joining hands with Turkey and Qatar. It's a Molotov cocktail, is what it is.
It could very easily, but it can be stopped. I have an easy idea. First of all, I'll say it very clearly. Israel will win this. I'm not saying it because they are powerful, they have the money, they have the army, the technology, United States behind them. No, they will not win because of that. They will win because they have to win. Other parties are fighting for land, for this, that. Israel is fighting for survival. The first battle they lose, they are done. We understand, we have the sympathy for the Palestinian people too. The point that let's see Israel's point of view. In 1948, they tried to destroy Israel right away. Then they tried it in 67, then 72. After they lost 3 battles, now they are going to court. But you can either do the battle or you can go to court. You cannot do both. You cannot lose the battle and then you cannot reject UN and then apply for the UN. That is from the Israeli side. From the Palestinian side, of course, means they have not been given like a true authority either in the West Bank or in the Gaza, and that can be. But obviously, after they take hostages, no negotiation is possible. My solution to this is, there's a bit of a power vacuum. Nobody wants China, because China was trying to deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia, Shia and Sunni. And now Saudi Arabia was doing a deal with Israel. That's how Iran got really mad. United States cannot really be an honest broker here, because it has been unequivocally on the side of Israel. How can it tell the other Arab countries that I'm an honest broker? If you look at the Camp David Accords, Anwar Sadat was assassinated, Ehud Barak was assassinated. So who could be the honest broker? I have a great idea. A newly emerging nation who's a power everybody likes, India could be the honest broker. And I'll tell you why. United States recognized Israel in 11 minutes. India did it in 44, but not 44 minutes, 44 years. The first Israeli embassy opened Indian embassy opened in Jerusalem, in Israel, in 1992.
Yeah.
So far it has been, India has been unequivocal in condemning the terrorist activity,
Okay.
but it has also supported the Palestinians. So now, and I'm fearful, I'll tell you quickly how this war will, I'm a physician. Human beings cannot survive without water for more than 48 to 72 hours. Gaza's water is controlled by Israel. Hong Kong's water was controlled by China. That's why Britain had to give up Hong Kong. The Russia and Ukraine is problem with the Dnieper River water. So my simple idea is like if...
No, but every single time there is a war that erupts, every single time there is a battle, that's the easy way out for Israel to, choke the Karim Shalom crossing, and that's exactly where all the food and the material and the supplies and water actually is, food, everything is brought into Gaza. So this is a tried and tested method. But the talk about the final solution. I mean, yes, this battle is going to end in a few days, a couple of weeks, we don't know, a couple of months. But then the larger question of, like you said, could India be an intermediary? I don't know. At this point of time, US has a lot of investment in Israel to be getting out of this unscathed. So again, a conundrum. There were obviously pacts. You spoke about Camp David Accords. We spoke about the Abraham Accords, the I2U2. They're all been in trajectory to allow for Israel to have these cordial associations with the Arab world, to include Israel into the Middle Eastern kingdom. But have they then been thwarted by the Hamas attack? And was this done by design is the question. In all likelihood, it is. So with that contention, I will like to continue this debate. I'm out of time, but I'll carry this forward as days pass by, and there are obviously more reports pouring in of strikes that are happening from either side, and of course Israel at this point of time also being attacked from the northern Gazan Heights area. I thank all my panelists. I'm sorry I'm short of time. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.